to the Nurse Life Coach Academy podcast, where Laura
and Shelby, both board-certified nurse coaches, talk all about how to get certified and practice professionally as a nurse life coach. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Nurse Life Coach Academy podcast. It's Shelby here today with you. And this episode is coming at a personal request from one of our students and or one of our clients, I should say. She's over in our business coaching containers. However, I do think that this topic is super, 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 super relevant to our Nurse Life Coach Academy folks. And as we are, when does this episode go live? Yeah, you guys have been coaching for a while now, and people listening in the future, you've been coaching for an eternity, but we are right in the middle of cohort 1 at the moment. And there's this concept in coaching of like, what's a good example of if you notice your client going in circles and saying the same thing over and over and over again, or you have a client that has gone completely into left field and is not really talking about anything related to why they showed up to the call today. We give you strategies for interrupting. We give you strategies for like recalibrating the session. But a part of that is seeking permission to coach on a deeper level, seeking permission to potentially say something spicy or something really direct to your client, seeking permission to guide your client back to the point so that they can land the plane. And my client that I was talking to, she's like, I just feel so weird. Like, I feel like I'm just asking to seek permission with every single question that I ask because I'm afraid that I'm doing it wrong. And I wanted to take a little bit of a deeper dive on this because I can see how we can get stuck here of like, am I doing it right? Am I seeking permission correctly? Am I being gentle enough while also being firm enough? So I wanted to give some context around this team because as coaches, and especially as nurses, we don't want to do any harm, but that doesn't mean that you have to like walk on eggshells around your client either. We have the agreements in the beginning, right? To playful out, safe and confidential space. You're going to get out of it what you put into it, and to have like radical self-responsibility for your experience. And those are all wonderful and good, and they apply to every single session. So we don't have to preface every question that we ask with a, well, can I ask you more about that? Or can I explore that with you? There are some maybe more empowering ways to approach that, because also think about this from the client end of like, if you're in the middle of a story, sharing, and then every time your coach speaks, they're like, well, wait, can we pause? Or can you go back to that thing? Or is it okay if I ask you about X, Y, and Z? Is it okay if I bring up this topic that you brought up 3 sessions ago? And it's like, yeah, dude, just like get to it, man. Just get to it. It's okay. We don't have to ask permission for everything. But I wanted to give you some examples on how you can do this super well and super fluidly. Give you maybe some different language options on how to seek permission with your clients when potentially you're going into an area of vulnerability, or you have like a really direct reflection to offer them on how we can frame these things so they are very potent and you come across super confident. So one of the easiest ones is framing permission as empowerment. So approaching permission as a way to give client control over their experience, right? Clients are always in control of the depth of their experience. If they don't want to talk about something, they tell you, we honor it, but if they're kind of like hovering on the surface level, and you can tell that there's something deeper, maybe the client doesn't know how to bring it up, but they're hovering on the surface level of like, me and my husband just haven't connected lately. Like, I feel like we're like passing sailboats during the day. And they don't elaborate further, but you feel it's relevant to like what they have going on. Ask them, Would it be okay if we explored that further? You've brought it up 3 times. I would love to know what's here for you. And that's it. That's all you have to say. This empowers your client and emphasizes that they are in control. They can absolutely say no, but it makes the conversation collaborative. It gives them the chance to opt in to their experience and invites them to just like say the thing, right? Instead of skating on the surface level of the conversation of like, what's really going on? Like this sounds important to you. Can you tell me more? Um, Second tip here, team, is to use open-ended phrasing. So rather than like a close-ended question of like, do you feel sad? Do you um do you want to go to the gym? Do is it this? I see coaches do this a lot of like to where we give people 2 options to choose from without letting the client define it for themselves. So it's like, well, do you think you're not going to the gym because you don't have time or because you don't want to? And it's like, well, there's probably a lot more nuance to that answer. So not offering like close-ended questions or questions that lead straight to a choice where people feel like they have to choose. We want the client to be able to answer from an authentic place, a real place. And whenever we ask those style of questions, the closed-ended questions or the 2 choice questions, it kind of like flips on your intellect and might even take ourselves out of the moment. Um, Also, team, as I'm talking here, I can I can maybe assume that our nurse coaches here in our community um, will feel boxed in by some of the rules I'm laying down here. And I just also want you to know that like you are the one in the session with your client. You know them way better than I do in this particular moment recording this podcast. So if there ever is a time for a yes or no question, if there ever is a time for a choice style question, I trust you. These are not hard and fast rules, but these are general rules that can lead to deeper conversations while seeking permission to kind of like push push the edge of the comfort zone a little bit. Um, so rather an example of an open-ended question, um, of like again I'll use the husband example of like someone like kind of keeps bringing up their husband but not really going deeper into it, asking them, how do you feel about diving deeper here? How do you feel about diving deeper into this area? I ask this style of question a lot around money whenever people are stressed about money or money is on their brain. I'm like, do you want to explore it together? I'd be happy to hold space around money for you. um, this shows that we are offering an option and not necessarily directing traffic on the conversation. Okay, third tip here, folks, is be direct, but be gentle. So I don't know about you, but whenever I hear the words direct, my body kind of like braces of like, oh, this is gonna hurt. And I'm not really sure where that comes from for me. I know that that doesn't carry the same weight for everybody. But like direct feedback makes me break out in a sweat. Um, it's something that I've had to work on so much, just holding this role, holding this position, coaching the amount of people that we've coached over the years of like, I want to know, but I only want to know if it's really nice praise feedback. If it's direct feedback, it makes my like abs tense. Um, and but there is a way here. There is a way to be direct with clients and to be gentle and to be kind. I think maybe there's a connection in my brain between direct and like mean for some reason, but there is a way, and I'll give you an example. So here's an example of being direct, but with some warmth to it. Before we continue, I want to ask if it's okay if we push a little deeper here. How do you feel about that? And um, I had a client earlier this week who, or last week, one or the other, and she was coming to the call and we were coaching around some mindset stuff. And I told her, she kept bringing up this, she's like, oh, I need to go work on that. Yeah, I'll go work on that. Oh, I'm working on that. And I'm like, and it is working in relation to mindset. And I was like, how are you working on it? And she like couldn't answer the question for me, which is super normal. People say, oh, I'll go work on that because they want to get off the hot seat with me a lot of the time of like, and I can sense it of like they're getting uncomfortable. They're trying to find the right thing to say to make me be quiet and let up. And so I her name is not Abby, but we'll use the name Abby for an example. I was like, Abby, I'm trying to go deeper with you, and you are like, is it okay if you let me in? Can you let me in here? I want to support you here. Right now I'm sensing some pushback. And asking the question, can you let me in here, is direct, but gives people an option, right? And I looped her in on what I was trying to do. I'm on her team. I want to support her. I want to know more about what this thing is because I don't think that you're going to go work on it by yourself. Um, Unless you had a really clear plan on what you were going to do after the call, then yes. But most people don't. Even when I tell that to coaches, I don't have a plan. So like calling them forward to be present here now, unpack here and now if they're feeling comfortable on the call. I think that the direct but gentle approach also conveys a lot of confidence while still being respectful and deeply caring as well. Like, hey, I can see something is going on here with you. I want to spend time here. It feels important. Also, if people are like, no, I don't want to go there, we honor that as well. Um, Another tip and trick here, team, is we want to create a coaching dynamic and relationship that feels natural for you to be seeking permission, right? So you might say something like, I always check in before we move forward. How are you feeling about exploring this today? If someone is coming to the call repetitively, kind of saying the same things over and over again, and you feel stuck, or they're like mentioning something but not making time or space for it on the call, this can be a good way to call out that little gremlin and just be like, hey, you've been bringing up this like this dynamic with your son, or you've been bringing up this dynamic with your husband or your daughter or your mom. Like, can we make a little bit of space for that today? Does that feel relevant to you? um One of my favorite kind of like taglines here is like, can I share with you what I see, and if I'm off base, tell me. And then I'm able to kind of like give my perspective of what I see is going on. And sometimes I'm right. I'm getting better at being right more of the time of like, is this what's going on? Am I understanding it correctly? And there's still some times where I don't have a clear picture, like, or they haven't told me the full story yet, and that gives them an opportunity to like fill in the gaps. Um, Either way is great. The conversation continues. We're peeling back layers of the onion. But you kind of have to be willing to be wrong. And that's my favorite way to offer to offer that. It's like, can I share what I'm seeing here, share what I'm hearing? And you tell me if I'm off base. I'm totally not attached. You tell me if I'm off base. And finally here, team, respect boundaries if you are met with hesitation. Okay. I know that as coaches, at least for me, like I want to be direct. I want to be spicy in a loving way. I want to be able to read between the lines and like call people forward and all the things. But if a client is hesitating, if a client is, you can feel it. It's not necessarily like a verbal cue. They might go silent, but um, it's often like this energy that you can feel that they're like not ready, or that was too much, or we're way off base. Um, but if you sense that, first I would encourage you just to hold a little silence and see what happens. And then if you're still like sensing this tension, I would call it out and say something like, I sense some hesitation here. That's totally okay. We can revisit this at a later time if you feel more ready. And again, this reinforces the safety and respect of the container, and allows both of you kind of like to let it go if it's meant to be let go in that moment. I would say that most of the time, people just need time to reflect on it. I've hardly ever gotten to a place with clients to where they tell me no or they're not ready yet. A handful of times for sure, but it's not very common. More often than not, people just need space to think and to feel and to check in. And as a coach, what a gift we can offer them by allowing that space to happen. By allowing that space to happen and unfold live on the call. Like there's kind of nothing else that could be more important than allowing space to be in it with someone. So, team, those are my 5 tips and tricks on seeking permission while allowing yourself to still be a little in leadership. It's a collaborative space, but like, so you know what you're doing, so that you don't feel like you have to like walk on eggshells or be weird or only have the phrase like, is it okay if I ask you more about that? I wanted to give you some more like language in the tool belt here. And being a client in many, 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 many different containers, um, this feels good. This feels good whenever my coaches ask permission to explore deeper, I feel very deeply listened to and I feel very deeply held because it means that they are potentially hearing something that I haven't glued together yet. And um, it's never been weird. It's only been weird when coaches just don't practice this at all and they come in hot and spicy. It doesn't land the same. It comes across very aggressive. And so I would encourage you to see which one of these feel good to you, practicing some of them out loud. You'll develop your own language around this. My goal and hope with sharing these types of podcast episodes is that we're kind of able to flip on different lights in your brain and you're like, oh, I never thought about it that way before. And that the language that you use comes more naturally to you. And if you have to borrow ours as a jumping off point, that's really cool too. All right, team, let me know what you thought. I'll see you on the next Nurse Life Coach Academy episode and happy coaching. Bye, team.